Hello, welcome to a new video. It is time for my first reading wrap up of 2025. January was a lot more chill than, if you was watching my wrap ups last year, you'll know it's a lot more chill than that. I was reading like between 18 to 30 books a month, which is great, but I have forced myself to slow down a bit because I want to do other things. And I only read 12 books in January, which is still a very good amount, but for me that is not a lot. But I am so close to being at episode 100 of Critical Role, of campaign 2 that is. And I've been doing cross stitch, I've been doing other things, and I've been having a good time. So I'm enjoying this. I'm having fun, just enjoying doing other things, as well as still reading, because I am still reading. So of those 12 books, I didn't DNF anything. I had no 2 stars, no 3 stars, 4 4 stars, and 8 5 stars. And none of them were rereads. No, I didn't reread anything. It's weird not having a massa long book. It's weird. But yeah, so let's go through what I read. So first up, I read My Vampire Plus One by Genevieve Levine. This is the sequel to My Roommate is a Vampire, which I read last year. It was one of my favourite books. And I love these characters so much. So this was a great sequel. It involved Reginald, who, if you've read the first book, you'll know who Reginald is. And this was just great. It was so funny. And it was a 5 star. I don't think I said that. It was a 5 star, obviously. I had a great time. Next up was my 12 books pick for January. And the first one of the year gave me the one I was most scared about. It was a classic. Thank you, Danny, for putting Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen in my picks, because I ended up really enjoying this. It was a 4 star and it is up there with my other favourite Jane Austens. I now only have to read Mansfield Park, but it is up there with Persuasion, which is my second favourite. So yeah. Next up, I read a book that you would not expect me to read, but it was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. Now this is a horror. It is quite a short book. And it's got 5 stars. I still don't understand how that happened, but I really enjoyed this book. It was not something I would tend to gravitate towards again, but she writes this so well. Delilah S. Dawson is great. Like, I've now read 2 books by Delilah S. Dawson. I've read a Star Wars book and I've read this. And I've had the best time with both of them. So maybe I'll read more of Delilah S. Dawson's horror. We'll see. Next, me and Kelly finally finished The Realm of the Elderlings and we read Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. This was a 4 star. I wasn't actually expecting a 5 star, but I loved how everything came together. My only issue was there was a bit of repetition with something that kept happening and I was getting a little bit bored of it. So I think that's why it brought it down to a 4. But I had so much fun reading this. It was so much fun to see everything from all of these books over the course of The Realm of the Elderlings come together. And it was great. I actually really enjoyed the ending. It was a bit bittersweet. But yeah, pleasantly surprised in this one. Next, I buddy read A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft with Ash. We are going to try and do buddy read one sapphic book a month, and this was our pick. This wasn't the only sapphic book I read in January. I read 3. 3? Technically 4. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. This was a 5 star. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. And I appreciate that whilst this is sapphic, the actual romance is a side plot, which I did know going into it. I wasn't expecting like a full romantasy. I think this is described as a romantasy. I'm sure I saw someone say it was a romantasy. I don't know. It's not romantasy because it's a fantasy with a bit of romance. And Tasha Suri literally said, a wonderful sapphic fantasy full of rivalry and yearning. This book is a gothic pleasure. And that is a perfect description. I really enjoyed how the creatures were described and the magic was described in this. It was so well done. And the mystery element was great. I loved the characters. Not all of them, obviously. I loved our main 2 characters. And, oh, this was so good. I would 100% reread this, which... what is happening? This is like not historical, but like it feels historical. You get me? Next, I read one of my most anticipated books of the year because I got approved on NetGalley. I read To You at the Altar by Rebecca Thorne, which is the third book in the Tones and Tea series. This one of my favourite series ever. If you know me, both books were mentioned in my best books of 2024. I read Can't Spell Trees Without Tea and it instantly became a favourite, and I'm really enjoying seeing their relationship. Rain and Chianthe deserve all the happiness, and this series has dragons and little griffins and they're so cute and I want one. But this book was just such a good addition. My favourite thing about this series is that it's cozy fantasy and there are high stakes, but high stakes in the sense that you know everything's going to be fine, so it's fine. And that's my favourite type of cozy fantasy. I want to know everything is going to be okay. I don't care about logic because this just makes me happy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one and I cannot wait for the final book, Alchemy with a Cup of Tea. I think it's coming out in August. I'm really hoping it doesn't get pushed back, and I'm really hoping it's on NetGalley and I get approved because I just want to finish this series and then reread it and then reread it and then reread it. Next up, I read Morning Star by Pierce Brown and it did not disappoint. This was also a 5-star. I have had so much fun with this series. I actually really like how this series wrapped up, and I am genuinely scared about reading the next series in this world. Because what if I don't like it as much? I know nothing about it. I don't want to know anything about it yet. But I am definitely going to take a bit of a break before I look into it, because I just want to sit with this series for a bit because I've had so much fun reading this series and it literally just came out of nowhere because I was not expecting to love this series and end up reading the whole trilogy in a few months. Like, what? So yeah, I just want to talk about it, but spoilers. Next, I read another NetGalley e-arc. What? Like, who am I? I read Our Infinite Fates by Laura Steven. I really enjoyed this book. This was a 5-star. I do think it was a low 5-star, but it was a 5-star. This was so beautifully written, and I don't know what to say without spoiling. If you want an easy to follow fantasy that's set in our world, that has kind of Addie LaRue vibes, but isn't Addie LaRue, not Addie LaRue, not the same writing style, just similar vibes, give this a go. It is technically sapphic, but I wouldn't put it up there on like top sapphic books because it's technically sapphic. But this was so good. I really enjoyed the dual timeline and I just thought it was so well done, and I'm just like, this book was so good. Next up, I'm going to talk about 2 books because I actually finished a series by reading books 2 and 3 of the Newsflesh series by Mira Grant. I read Deadline and I read Blackout. So I didn't read these back to back. I read Deadline and then Blackout I literally finished on the last day of the month, and read a few books in between them because I finished Deadline. And if you've read these books, make sure you've got book 3 available if you finish book 2. Because I finished book 2 and instantly was like, Ash, I need book 3. To which she bought book 3 a few days later when she came to mine. These were both 5 stars. I absolutely loved both of them. This one felt more like a zombie book than the first book did, because the first book follows the presidential election, whereas this follows a slightly different route, and the presidential election has happened and this is like following events afterwards, but it feels more like a zombie book than a political book, which I think is why I actually did enjoy that. I think this is my favourite book in the trilogy, which is weird for a middle book to be my favourite book. But I really enjoyed it, and the ending just throws you completely. I was fully jaw drop. What is happening? Blackout also has very much zombie book vibes from the plot, but there isn't a huge amount of zombie attacks in this. There's a few more in this, but like, it's not a zombie book in the sense like it's like The Walking Dead where they're constantly fighting zombies. I'm talking early Walking Dead, not the newer Walking Dead where they're fighting each other, because that's when I stopped watching. But it's not like that. It's like they're driving and they get attacked by zombies, that sort of thing. But there's a few instances of that, but like, it's the, how can I explain this? It's the medical side of it that feels like a zombie book, and it's so cleverly done. Mira Grant's mind is just amazing, and I am so happy I read this series, because I wasn't going to, because it's marketed wrong. It's marketed as a zombie book, and then I've seen people be disappointed because it's the first one isn't technically a zombie book, it's a political book with zombies. But I went into it knowing that, and I'm so glad Ash talked me into reading this, because yes, I need to read this author's backlist now. This series has solidified that, and I actually think I might get my own copies of these because I want to reread them, because I had the best time reading them. So yeah, a new favourite series. I absolutely love this, and there's loads of short stories, and then there is a book that is set during the time of the first book but from a different media, like bloggers' point of view, and that one's Sapphic, I believe. So yeah, amazing series. Yes. And then I finished my Chronicles of Ixia read along. I will preface by saying they are continuing for 3 more months because they have the first books from Valak's point of view, but I'm not reading those. But this is the short story collection. It is the Tales of Ixia and Sitia. There are, I think, like 5 or 6 short stories in this, and this was a 4-star, and there is plot to these, but there's not a lot of plot. And I wasn't as gripped as I was with all of the actual books in the series. And I get that because it's short stories, like I know. But the last 1 or 2 I did really enjoy because they were set after. I think the others, if I had read them in their chronological place in the story, but I was a bit lost because I was like, wait, where is this set? Because so much happens in that entire like world. And I was like, wait, what time, whereabouts is this set? So I think if I had read each individual story in its actual place chronologically, I would have enjoyed them a lot more. But I didn't. It's fine. But the last like 2 are set after the events of all the books. So I really enjoyed those because it was nice being back with all the characters. So yeah. And like, thank you to, well, first off, thank you to my friend Caroline, who bought me the first trilogy years and years and years ago because she got me in Secret Santa and she got me those books. And then thank you to Tori and Andy for doing the read along, because let's be real, I wouldn't have picked the books up. Let's be real. This is me. I feel really bad because I haven't actually gone to any of the live shows for the books, because I find it really hard to like comment on read alongs, but I had a great time reading them and that's the main thing. And then the final book I read in January was The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. So it's the first book in the Kane Chronicles, and this was a 4-star. I did really enjoy this. It very much has the humour and like writing style of Percy Jackson, but very much different characters. I did, however, love getting some Egyptian gods. Like, it was testing my knowledge that I have from when I was like 9, when I went through my phase of being obsessed with ancient Egyptians. Really enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this trilogy goes. Already have the second book reserved at the library for the audiobook, just waiting for the whole to come in. So yeah, really enjoyed this. I really like the characters. Carter and Sadie are great, and all the different like side characters were great as well. But yeah, Carter and Sadie are just amazing. So that was my January reading wrap up. My favourite book was To You at the Altar. Are we shocked? No, it was all 10s on core pile, just like the first 2 books were. So no shock whatsoever that was my favourite book. Let me know in the comments below what your favourite book you read in January was. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye.